We had another really fun weekend of baseball. A lot of free agent bidding to talk about. We're going to be doing that all next on the RotoWire Fantasy Baseball Podcast. Join us up next. Happy Sunday evening, everybody. Welcome to the RotoWire Fantasy Baseball Podcast. I'm Scott. I can't even say my own name. Scott Jenstad, joined as always by Jeff Erickson. If you could please rate and review the podcast, that'd be really fantastic too. Helps people find us, all that good stuff. Jeff, another week of baseball. We got a lot of stuff going on. How is everything in your world?
It's great. It's great. Got a big soccer tournament coming up this week. Had a lot of fun. Went to a game, Galaxy versus Wrexham game.
Was Ryan Reynolds in the house?
Probably. I didn't see him, but that's okay.
You weren't in his box.
And it was Galaxy 2, so it was not exactly high quality soccer, but it's okay. It was fun.
It's like that minor leagues. What is Galaxy 2?
That's their second. It's like the second tier team. You know how big the Premier League is in Britain, and then there's a second league, which is second level, which is the Championship, then League One, and then League Two, which Wrexham just got moved up into League Two.
I did know that. I saw that from the show and the internet and all that, but I did not know there was a Galaxy 2, and that's a really unoriginal name. They should come up with something better than that.
Yeah, well, it just shows the affiliation, man. They fly the colors. Part of their developmental academy system that they have, and it's actually produced a lot of good players over the years. So it's cool, but it's also it's literally men against boys. That's what it was last night.
Makes sense. So, well, that's probably enough soccer. We'll jump into baseball here. Jeff, I want to talk real quick about Ronald Acuña. It's kind of obvious. There's not much to say here. This dude is unbelievable. I think it might be underplayed how good this season is. He's on pace right now for 330, 39 home runs, and 75 stolen bases. That is an utterly absurd. I remember a few years ago, there was the Carlos Gomez season that was like 24-40, and everybody's going nuts, and he's the first round pick next year, all that kind of stuff. He's on pace for 39-75 right now. This is an insane season.
It is. It really is. And bless his heart for doing against the Brewers today.
Nice.
For our Reds, that's important. Obviously, but just general too. It's just ridiculous what he's doing this year, and he kind of morphed into the consensus number one. I wouldn't say not consensus, but the predominant number one pick. But it took a while to get there. Yep.
I said I probably would have gone Julio, and I'm glad I didn't have the number one pick because I don't think I could. I don't get sleep at night knowing that I passed up Acuña because this isn't. I mean, the stolen bases are insane, but the 330, you just put that on top of it. It's just. His hard hit rate's 56.5%. His barrel rate's 15%. So it's all supported. But the wild thing, I don't know if you looked at him because there's no reason to really look at him that closely. Mm-hmm. His K rate right now is 12%.
Yeah,
it was 23.5% last year. A number you can deal with. He's 12% right now. It's just he's just becoming more of a monster. He was already a monster. Now this is an unbelievable step up season, and just he's unbelievable.
And the thing is, because he steals so much too, I mean, it kind of dissuades from pitching around him, especially when you've got just a monster lineup behind him too. Because not only is he going to steal, but then you've got guys that are very capable of knocking him in too, and off you go. And the Braves' first innings are a thing to behold.
Yeah, they are. It's insane. I mean, you go, and Riley had a home run every day this week until today. Olsen is second to Ohtani in home runs. Our friend Paul Spohr mentioned he would have taken Ohtani number one. That would have worked out pretty well too. But man, Acuña is just insane. It's just I just couldn't believe the strikeout rate when I looked at it. I was like, I wonder what he's doing that's a little bit different. Strikeout rate at 12%. He's almost a dead even strikeout to walk ratio right now. It's just it is an utterly special season. He's dropped his swing strike rate 3%. I don't think we're going to have much controversy over who's number one pick next year.
No. Yeah. I don't think. I think there'll be someone will be out there will be different. Maybe they'll take Ohtani, for instance.
Yeah. That would be the only other guy in that discussion, probably. But the stolen bases on Acuña. I mean, if he steals 70 bags, how do you even compete with that?
Right. Exactly. Yeah. So the question is, I mean, how badly do you want that number one overall pick? There are leagues where you can buy your I know a couple of the fancy leagues, the exotic NFBC leagues will buy your draft position, and I gotta imagine there's going to be some pretty aggressive bidding to try to get the number one or number two spots.
I mean, you couldn't have overpaid this year. Whatever it cost you to get Acuña, it would have been worth it. I mean, there's a number probably that would have been overpaying, but boy, it'd be really, really high.
Yeah. No, we have Timothy Tunks. We have not broken down the Fuji trade yet. It's right on the top of the outline next. It's the next item on the agenda there.
It's the only game the Orioles lost this weekend, right? Was the one that Fuji came in and blew it.
Yeah, you can take the boy out of the A's. I won't insult Oakland here. Take the boy off the A's, but you can't take the A's off the boy. There he is.
That's a good segue into the big series this weekend was Baltimore, Tampa Bay. It's funny. You and I talked last week about how Tampa had at Texas and then against Baltimore this week, and they had 7 games. Like they were starting to struggle. And if they go 5-2, they're kind of fine and they're stabilized. If they go 2-5, they're really kind of in trouble. They went 1-6. They're 2 games back of the Orioles right now. It's messy right now. They're not hitting. They're still they can still pitch a little bit, but they're not hitting at all. Baltimore really took it to them this weekend. I know today was extra innings, but they won 3 out of 4. Texas swept them. Tampa Bay's in a world of hurt right now.
They need starting pitching. I mean, it's just
so many injuries.
Yeah, and this has been a known factor since Rasmussen went out. I mean, you lose one starter, okay, fine, but you lose Rasmussen and Springs, and there, Glass now is unstable to say the least. They had McClanahan have an IL trip. That was a little. I mean, that's a little unlikely to have that, but they really need to go get another starter, and they need it a month ago. And yes, easier said than done. Yep. Who's selling? Who's selling now is the better question. We got another week and we'll have that answer, but it stinks for them, but they're honestly, funny thing is they're 4.5 up on the Jays. Jays are the 3rd wild card. The Red Sox are 2 behind that. So they're 6.5 up on not even being in the playoffs. I've seen bigger leads dissipate in 2 months.
Oh, for sure. I mean, it's funny. You look at everybody. You kind of think Boston and New York are so far back, and you're right. They're each 2 games out of the 3rd wild card. This week is going to be so huge for figuring out because you've got teams like the Angels, the Mariners, the Guardians, who are like 4, 5, 6 out of that 3rd wild card spot. You've got teams like the Cubs and the Padres in the National League, maybe the Mets on the outskirts there, where if they have a 5-1 week or a 6-1 week before the deadline, suddenly you're 2 or 3 out. You're making trades for guys that are selling guys off. But if you go 3-4, 2-5 this week, you're selling guys. There are a lot of teams more than usual. It feels like that are right on the fence between being buyers and sellers right now.
Yep. And I'll say this about the Rays. I mean, yes, they've been extraordinarily unlucky, but they know what the issue is too. They have the prospects to deal with it here too. They can trade prospects. If they are so desire, if they feel like they have the team. Now the question is like, what do they need? 2 starters, 2 playoff level starters to go with McClanahan? Do you really count? I think they have, and Eflin will be your number 2. I'm okay with that as a playoff starter, but they really need 2 more pitchers. Maybe 1 starter, 1 reliever, or 2 starters. They need something here.
And the problem is you look across the way, National League at the Dodgers who are playing well right now, but they need a starter too. The market for starters is going to be pretty intense. These 5 or 6 teams in between. I mean, if the Mets go 2-5 or something this week, suddenly they could really put some arms on the table. The Cardinals, if they want to trade guys, they're an interesting team with obviously Jordan Montgomery, but other teams. The White Sox have, we talked about Lance Lynn last week and Giolito, maybe Dylan Cease if they wanted to really get crazy. There's a lot of starters out there. I'm just curious what the price is going to be because there are the teams that need stuff usually need starters.
Yep, and every team needs. Our Reds need 3 starters. They might get 2 back in Green and Lodolo, but they probably need.
Yeah, every time I hear about those guys, it gets pushed back a little bit too. Like, it was late July, early August. Now it's like Green's mid-August and Lodolo's after that. So they have to find a way to hang in there until those guys come back. But it's just not. You're not going to slot those guys in there. So 7 innings every outing is going to be.
Didn't you stash Lodolo too?
I did. I might have dropped him back. That's a really good question. When I saw the news this week, I had like 2 bids in to drop him back. I did drop him. I dropped him this week. So I was going to hold in case until I needed something or something interesting came up. I may try and get him back. But when I saw it was going to be late August, I just that's a long ways to go. And I just don't know how much they'll push him. They're really going to be careful about not overexerting him too.
Yeah, I think so too. Comment about the Reds should go after Marcus Stroman. I'd love to see that. I don't know if the Cubs are trading. I mean, they're 5.5 out in the wild card. They have a +41 run differential. They just spanked the Cardinals all weekend. Reaffirmed to the Cardinals. I did Cardinals cast on Thursday on the with Ryan Boyer and Drew Silva, and we were just talking all things Cardinals, and they were actually hoping they pull the trigger. Remember, the Cardinals came in hot. They had swept the Marlins.
Yep.
They got swept in their own right in at least 3 out of 4, and now they're sitting back at 44 and 56. They need to be sellers for sure. But the Cubs,
they're 10 out of the third wild card spot. They got to sell, and they've got 6 teams in between them, and there's just too much there.
The Cubs are plus 41. They're 6.5 out in the Central, 5.5 out in the wild card. Believe it or not, Scott, right now, our Reds are the top NL wild card. Fun. That'd be a fun fact there.
It's wild, right? We kind of made fun of the Centrals for a long time, and the Reds are the top wild card, and they're a half game behind the Brewers. AL Central is still not the case. They still trail every team in the AL East, but the NL Central's put a little bit of a move on. You're right. The Cubs are the plus 41 and playing good ball. Cody Bellinger on fire. He's been really good last night. He's picked them up in a big way. Something
Dodgers would like that, but then again, the Dodgers they have left-handed outfielders, and they're doing fine, by the way, too.
It's funny when we talk about the Dodgers, and all of a sudden you look up and they're up 4 on the Diamondbacks, up 4 on the Giants. Both those teams in losing skids right now. Diamondbacks lost 4 in a row. The Giants lost 5 in a row. The Giants looked horrible this weekend against in Washington. They were I think they were last I saw they were 0 for 16 with runners scored position for the series. They looked terrible all weekend. It looks like the Dodgers are quickly becoming a class of the division yet again for the 5,000th year in a row.
What a difference from the start of the week to the end of the week for the Giants. They take the first 2 games from the Reds, and then they lose the last 2, and then just get pounded all weekend long by the Nats, who are the Nats. Lane Thomas is a golden god. We know that.
He had 4 steals today. I didn't miss that, right?
4 bags. Yeah. He was awesome. And then, of course, I think the other guy that we need to pay attention to is CJ Abrams. He's having himself kind of a year.
In the last month, especially. He was actually dropped in my main event league, and Zach Waxman, who we know, picked him up. You were on his podcast, I think, last week. I
was with Zach and Mike them out. I think it first aired on Sunday night or Monday morning. Guys, check it out. I had fun doing that. Just skip the top 8 list at the end. That was bad, but
I'm going to choose that because I know there was one about me, so I'm going to choose to fully skip that. With Abrams, as Zach picked him up, we talked about him. He's like, I think that I need stolen bases, and boom. He's been really good. He's hit
for power too now.
Yeah, he's hitting 375 since the break over 16 games, 3 home runs, 10 stolen bases in July, which is a big number over 16 games. He's been huge for teams.
Absolutely. You really do love to see development from young players like that. And how many times do we give up too quickly on a young guy? This happens a lot. CJ Abrams is 22 years old.
Yeah,
22.
And
I was dismissive of him. I'll
as overmatched as possible last year. Like he looked like he did not belong at all.
Yeah. And this is a story. How many times? And we mention this all the time. Strikeout rate matters. It really does. In his case, he wasn't even striking out that much, but so many times, he's striking out so many times in his first taste of Major League pitching. Oh, they get better. Who knew? Aaron Judge struck out like 45% of the time in his first call up. I made a horrible Judge-related trade. I've mentioned that here before, but we have a new listener every week. So Jose Bautista in his last year for Aaron Judge in a score sheet league. AL only score sheet league. I'm still paying for that one there.
Do you get to keep people forever?
Yes.
Oh Lordy.
Yes, it was because I was making one last push to try to compete.
Right, of course.
And that's also there's a lesson in that too. By the way,
this 6'7" guy can't not strike out 40% of the time. It seems impossible.
Yeah, too big of a strike zone.
Yeah, that's a rough one right there. But looking forward, I've made plenty. We have a football league together where I've made a couple. Unbelievable. I think I traded a lot for Jay Ajayi that year. He was a first-round pick, and then I turned the next year for LaShawn McCoy, maybe. Like, every time a running back's, just burst in the first round, I traded for him, and they end up being pretty bad.
Yeah, anytime. And now I get all these ridiculous trade offers, so I'm just scared to make any trade in that league. Oh, it's so bad.
I've kind of decided I'm gonna draft, make small trades, and kind of deal with who I draft with and go with there. But should have won last year. I got really close, but good series this week. Speaking of kind of looking forward, we talked about the other divisions, but the AL West is getting fun. Texas is still playing well. They lost Corey Seager this week, which is a huge loss. He was essentially, since he came back, he's been mashing pretty much since Jump Street right there. He's been killing it. They're up 3 games on the Astros. They have a 3-game set this week. It's in Texas, I believe. Yes, it's in Texas. No, it's at Houston. I'm sorry. It's at Houston. Nate Eovaldi is actually missing this series. They're skipping him. Just seemed like the velo was down a little bit. Maybe needed a break. They said they were going to kind of find some spots to rest guys. It's tough to rest them against your division rival here. But this is a big series. if Houston can, sweep this or take 2 out of 3, suddenly I think Texas might start to feel this in a big way, and Houston will be on the move here.
Yeah, and it's the loser of the division is not guaranteed a playoff spot.
No, not with all those AL East teams playing so well.
And the Angels and Mariners waking up too.
Sure, let's go with that.
Dude, the Angels are only 4 games out in the wild card. They are 5 games behind the Astros. I mean, that's gettable.
Talk about a big week for a team.
Yeah, both those teams. They had a huge. The Mariners lost today, but they had a huge week against the Blue Jays straight up. Yeah. That was big to kind of launch them back in the conversation. I mean, it's still the odds are against them, but 4 games is gettable.
Yeah, that's a hot 10 days. You can pass a couple teams, but the Angels are so huge because the Angels go 5-1. They're keeping everybody. They may even trade for somebody. They go 1-5. They might have to trade the best player in the entire league. Like, it's a wild swing based on 7 days.
Absolutely, and I'm here to see it.
I don't think they trade them either way. By the way, I think if they go 1-5, they should, but I don't think they will either way.
Yeah, I just was on VSiN on Saturday, and they asked me what I think is going to happen with Ohtani, and I was like, yeah, I thought asked me 2 weeks ago, I would have said that he's definitely getting dealt, but then they took advantage. They pounded the Yankees. I mean, they didn't pound them, but they swept the Yankees. That was huge. They still get 3 games at Detroit. They've got this big 9-game road trip here, and it's literally going to determine everything here. They go at Detroit, at Toronto, and then at Atlanta. Trade deadline is second game. Is the trade deadline is Tuesday next week. So like by then they're going to have gone 4-3 at least. In that stretch, and then hope, and maybe even better I think to be in the wild card race. But you're right. I think they've got so much invested in marketing dollars with Ohtani. The Artie Moreno factor is strong, very strong and present. That's the thing that's going to be something that's a huge concern.
Yeah, it's gonna be a fascinating week. So let's take a look at week 18, the preview here. Weird week fantasy wise because there's so few games. There's only 4 teams with 7 games this week. The Guardians, the Tigers, the Cardinals, and the Nationals. We actually have 6 teams that have 5 games. So if you play an NFBC type format where you can make moves Monday to Thursday, make sure you check a lot of those. A lot of teams that play 2 games this period. The A's, the Rays, the Red Sox, the Yankees, the Marlins, and the Braves all have 5 games a week. That is a big chunk of teams right there. There's a lot of players. You look at some of those teams: New York, Boston, Tampa, Atlanta. A lot of fantasy rosterable guys and studs on those teams. I mean, you're not seeing Acuña because he plays 2 games, but there are some guys in that group that with 2 games, you got to make sure they play both. And if they sit one, suddenly you're getting 1 game over 4 days. I'm sitting probably a number of 2-game wise this week that I normally wouldn't sit for 3 or 4 gamers, but that's something to definitely check as we go.
Yeah. So like Sean Murphy and Travis d'Arnaud. I mean, that's a tough call. Do you take their 1 game?
Because there's no way they don't want either of them to sit 4 days in a row. So you have to hope that one of them DHs. I guess is your only way that they're going to play 2.
Yeah,
I mean,
that means you sit Ozuna then, and then Ozuna is an automatic. He should be a sit anyhow, probably because I think he falls under the 2-game threshold unless you're just. But then again, what if you have JD Martinez and then okay, I got a day-to-day guy. Now what do I do? We got to wait. He's not
gonna play tomorrow. They said that Max Muncy's going to DH tomorrow, so that puts the Dodgers. He played 3, so he's down to 2. He's a tough call too. I was trying to figure him out earlier. Was I making FAAB moves? Like, do I need someone for this spot? And I think if he sits tomorrow, I mean, I'll check the lineup for sure. But if he sits tomorrow, it's hard to play him knowing that you're getting 2 games absolute max.
Yeah, exactly. And so very tough week for some of these guys there. I mean the Yankees. Is there a Yankee you feel good about playing 2 games? Stanton, I guess, maybe.
God, that's so funny you say that because I'm like, of course there are, but then they're like, oh, not really. Yeah,
they had a good weekend against the Royals, who are the Royals still. So that helped. But
they definitely are the Royals. I'm thinking, I guess you go Stanton and Glaber, although Glaber left early with a little bit of a hip tweak today. Right. I mean, Rizzo had 4 hits today. Might have been his first 4 hits in 2 months.
First homer in 2 months.
I love the silent treatment in the dugout was great with them. It was pretty.
That was amazing.
I might play Rizzo. I'd play Stanton. I might play Torres, but that's really it. I mean, the rest of that lineup, there's nobody you want for 2 games.
Yeah. By the way, baseball's amazing. Dodgers are starting to pull away in the NL West. The Braves are the best team in baseball. Braves lost 2 out of 3 to the A's. The Dodgers lost 2 out of 3 to the Royals. I mean, it's just both road series, but still, come on.
And the Red Sox are red hot last week and they lost 2 or 3 to the A's.
And last year, I think the Pirates took 5 out of 6 to the Dodgers and they won 110 games. It's like, come on. It's just the nature of this game.
Thanks to Kenny in the chat for the nice comments. We do really appreciate that and appreciate everybody listening. Best offensive schedules. They're a little bit tougher this week with so few teams with 7 games. Jeff, I really like the Rockies this week, and they have some guys you can pick up. They have 3 against the Nationals in Washington. So you don't get Coors there, but you get Patrick Corbin, you get Williams, you get Jake Irvin. Like, I love that. And they get 3 at Coors against the A's pitching. If the Rockies can, it's tough to figure out who you want on the Rockies aside from the obvious guys, and TJ Crone's a little banged up, but man, that's a really good schedule this week.
It is. It really is. So yeah, you love to see it there, and you kind of just hoping that you can get some of those guys in there. But again, you got the day-to-day guys, you got some playing time issues. That's still a pain in the butt.
We need a 60 a week from Brenton Doyle is what we need. That'd be really nice.
Yeah, it would be. How about the other side of that series? How are you in on were you in on JJ Bleday or any of the A's?
I added Bleday in one main event. I think if you need a middle, Jordan Diaz is mildly interesting. He's playing every day, got a little bit of pop. Brent Rooker didn't play the last few days. He's sick. It's weird. He was really sick on Monday, then played, and then he sat the whole weekend. He's sick. I don't know what's going on with him, but it's kind of I wasn't going to rely on him. But yeah, I think Diaz, I think Bleday is interesting. He's playing a lot of games and he's got some pop. Those are the 2 guys. Ramon Laureano, kind of sneaky this week. He's coming off the IL, should play on Tuesday. He's available in some main events. I think that I had some bids in on him. I think they're going to probably try, if he looks remotely decent the next week, they're going to try everything they can to trade him. But if you get a core series out of that, it could be really nice.
Low-key awful season, by the way.
Low-key awful season. Low-key very overrated as a player overall, by the way.
Yeah, but you used to love him.
I love watching him. I love him on defense. I mean, we
all love the throws.
Yeah, he's so fun on defense. But he's been quietly. He was really bad last year. He had a 287 OBP, hit 211. Strikeout rate went up, and it went up even more this year. He was really bad this year so far.
Yeah, and he always gets hurt.
It's always something. It's always some sort of little muscle injury that keeps him out. It's always something. I think this time he fractured his hand, I believe. But yeah. The Guardians have a really good schedule this week too. 3 against Kansas City, 4 against the White Sox. White Sox pitching, can be a little bit on the tougher side there. But of the 7 game teams, that's a pretty solid one. They do get Cease and Giolito, which is tough, but probably get Tuki Toussaint and Kopech on the back end, so that could be good there.
Can I tell you a Nationals pitcher that I'm interested in?
Nationals pitcher interested in. We're gonna go. I don't know who you're talking about. Jake Irvin.
Jake Irvin, it is.
All right. Tell me why.
Sneaky K percentage here. Home start against the Rockies. I don't mind that. He was really good against the Giants in his last time out. Struck out 9 his last time out. 53 Ks in 68 innings. You're like, whatever. But the Ks have been getting better and better. The velocity's been getting better with him. I'm kind of interested in him. It's not great, but I see some upside potential for him. So I'm kind of on board.
Home start against the Rockies. It's a nice stream right there.
Yeah. So I had him actually picked up in a couple of leagues at the All-Star break, and now I added him one more league today. So there you go.
Cardinals have a really good schedule too. 3 against Arizona, although I think they do get Zach Gallen in there, but then 4 against the Cubs. Of the 17 games, they're a pretty good one too. Who knows who's going to be on the Cardinals in a week? But
right.
for this week, we should be pretty good with getting them all in. I don't know what they're going to look like next Tuesday though.
I gotta say, I still don't understand why they're bad. I look at this team, I look at their parts, and I think the sum should be higher than it is. It just doesn't add up.
It really doesn't. And they're the most surprising team of things you thought were going to be good. I mean, they have a team ERA of 4.53, so that's probably
a big part of it. Towards doing it. Yep.
The pitching has been pretty bad, but I think we're surprised by some of that too. Although, all kind of their fringy pitchers have been pretty rough. Miles Mikolas has been bad. Flaherty's been about 4.4 ERA. He's been really up and down. Like some starts are great and some are just horrible.
They tried Liberatore. That didn't work. Now they're back on Adam Wainwright's quest to get 2 more wins.
Yeah, his ERA is 7.5 or something like that. And then they kind of Jordan Hicks has been pretty good closing out of the back end of the bullpen, but they just got to
be dealt. By the way, he is like the one that's most likely to be dealt.
And should be. I mean, I imagine a lot of teams be interested. I mean, Arizona's got it. Would love that, right? Arizona, Miami, if Miami's buying, but Arizona especially, like they need a closer bad.
Yeah, but it's. I think he's he's firmly committed to the bit about not naming a closer. I was in on Kevin Ginkel this week.
I was too. I mean, he got 2 saves in a row, and our boy the Guffer has not been good since the in July. So,
yeah.
But I don't know. I think if he had a guy that he traded for, I think he'd be fine naming. I just don't think he's had anybody to name really.
Yep. Talking about our Reds, Adam asks, do you have a favorite section to sit at Great American? True confession. I hang my head with shame. I've never been to Great American Ballpark.
The wild thing is I've been to all but 6 parks, and that's one of the 6 I haven't been to.
Yeah. So if anybody here in the chat has been there more often, jump in. And if you're listening after the fact, well, you can tweet at us. We'll relay it on.
My answer would be as close as you can get to Matt McLean as possible.
He's a good human being.
I love Matt McLean. So
yeah.
But let's jump into FAAB. There was a lot of action this weekend, especially for this late in the season. But first, a note from our partners at AG1. AG1 is the daily foundational nutrition supplement that supports whole body health. I drink it literally every day. I gave AG1 a try because I wanted better gut health, a boost in energy, immunity system support, and also I hate taking pills. It's a personal problem with me. I want a supplement that actually tastes really good, and AG1 does exactly that. I drink AG1 in the morning before starting my long days. It makes me feel ready to take on my day and also feel like I'm doing something good for the body. Since I've been drinking AG1, I've done an overall feeling of health plus sustained energy, improved digestion, and most importantly, support for mental clarity and focus. And Jeff, you know me well. You know that I need as much mental clarity and focus as we can get.
Especially if you're getting stuck doing a podcast with me every week.
That is true. It's a valid point right there. Covering my nutritional basis for the day literally couldn't be easier, which is why I trust AG1. I just mix 1 small scoop with water and drink it first thing each morning, and I'm done. It has 75 vitamins, minerals, and whole food source ingredients. It also costs like less than $3 a day. Pretty good if you ask me. It's a really effective daily habit with high-quality source ingredients. It's really a win-win. If a comprehensive solution is what you need for your supplement routine, then try AG1 and get a free 1-year supply of vitamin D and 5 free AG1 travel packs with their first purchase. Go to drinkag1.com/roto. That's drinkag1.com/roto. Check it out. Jeff, so the big name in FAAB this week was once again on our Reds for like the 3rd or 4th time this season. I feel like there's been a lot of this. We had Abbott, we had Ellie De La Cruz, we had Matt McLean, we've got Christian Encarnacion-Strand. You're the Reds fan. Tell me what to expect here. How aggressive were you in the bidding? If you had money, maybe the last big name prospect we're going to get this season. We've said that a couple times, but it feels like we're all waiting for CES to get called up. How do you think the playing time works out? What do you think we're looking at here the last 2 months?
I think you're looking at he'll sit once a week, basically, is what I think they're looking at there. The Reds are really, I mean, they're deep now. It's fun. They Steer sits one day, Votto sits one day, Ellie sat Saturday. Everyone gets a day here and there, and that's fine. It's not even a bad thing there. It's really fun to see. He's got a good hit tool. He's not going to steal any bases. Power should come. I mean, his 1 homer was a moonshot.
A big one too. Like they gave him the lead, right? That was a big one.
Yeah. So he's going to be good. It's going to be fine. The only question too is what do the Reds do at the trade deadline? Are they adding an arm or 3 or 4, and how are they going about doing that? Is CES one of those guys that could be part of a package if it's a true ace comes through? A true ace. I'm just slapping a label that doesn't really mean anything. Here's a question.
Let's go, Lucas Giolito.
I'm asking you that. Would you do Lucas Giolito?
Would I trade for him, or what would I trade?
Would you trade CES for a couple months of Giolito?
Probably.
I think I might also, especially
I thought about
the farm system.
I have you have to just say I have PTSD from the A's trading for John Lester with 2 months left, and then giving John Lester 7 runs in the wild card game and him not being able to hold that lead. So I have a little bit of hesitancy about trading for a pitcher, because they don't do that much. But I think the Reds need one so badly. They have so many offensive guys. I think I probably would. It would hurt to do, but no trade that works or is good for you doesn't hurt to do a little bit. That's the way it should be. But I think I'd do it.
Yeah, I think I would too. But I'll say, I mean, keep in mind, Encarnacion-Strand was a good prospect. The Reds obviously thought so. They traded for him, but it wasn't like, oh my goodness, they gave up Encarnacion-Strand in the Tyler Mahle deal. I mean, maybe some Twins fans were, I don't know, but it's really, his status is definitely improved. Let's put it that way. No defensive value. You can't put him in the outfield. You can't put in, which for the Reds is actually an issue because they just have guys coming out of their ears. It's a good problem to have. I think I would, but I wouldn't do so for Lynn. I wouldn't do so for Jordan Montgomery. I might for Stroman. But there's only a few pitchers out there that I would.
I wouldn't for Stroman.
Yeah. I mean, I think I like him better than those other two, though. What do you say?
I agree there. Paul Sporer pointed out that John Lester was really good down the stretch for Oakland. He was. That was the season they fully collapsed.
It's just one game that you hate. That's all.
They were the best team in baseball at the All-Star game. I think they had like 8 All-Stars. All-Stars had an unreal record and then just went in the tank. Traded Cespedes, got Lester. He was good. However, that wildcard game sticks with me. That was a utterly painful game. And
they're not getting Cease. I don't think the White Sox trade Cease. I
think it'd have to be a holy crap, we can't turn this down kind of offer for Cease.
I agree.
Yeah. I think they have 2 years left on his deal, something like before he's free, something like that. And they got enough time that I don't think they think they're that far away from being a good team that I think they want to keep Cease too. Yeah. So did you get CES anywhere? How aggressive were you? Did you have money to do it? What'd you do with him?
Still 1 league pending, and I'm over so far. I think I got to double check 1 league.
Scarf pending in 21 minutes.
Yeah. So I won't. I'm not gonna. This time I'm not gonna do you the. I'm not gonna do the league the favor of telling how much I'm bidding.
It worked last time. You ended up getting whoever it was.
I have less money now. So that's the difference.
So I have 2 leagues where I couldn't afford him. He went over for over 100 in 2 of my 3 mains, but one of them, Jeff got him for 43 with a backup bid of 43, which was a lovely experience.
Lovely.
And it must have been a team that I passed during the day because it goes by standings from the night before. So I think I passed.
Even
this team
weirder. That's
even
rude.
Weirder, right?
That's just straight up rude.
It was. If the bidding was tomorrow, I would have not gotten him. So I hope he's really good because that'd be a fun story. I need steals there, so it doesn't help me there. But it was more of a, I had a little bit of money. I wasn't going hundreds for him because I need stolen bases. I need to kind of save the money for there. So I went 43. Just figured if I got him at that price, I'd really like it. So I'm pretty happy about it. I needed a third baseman pretty badly. I've been cycling through Mike Moustakas and Zach McKinstry and some other guys. Moustakas actually had a couple home runs this week for me, but having someone up at third base to kind of slot him in would be really, really big for me.
Yeah. I think that's awesome. You get to root for a player on your favorite team. I love it.
It was good because it's the one team where I don't have Matt McClain. So now I feel like I have an infusion of Reds on each of my 3 squads now. It's beautiful.
Yeah, I think it's nice to have you see a rising offense like that in Great Park. Just getting a piece of it is really fun.
I mean, it's fun just when they're up. I just flip on that game. And I'm like, all right, the top of the order is coming up. I can watch Ellie, Votto, McClain, CES, missing Steer, and a couple of the guys in there. But like, it's just fun all the way up and down the lineup. Stevenson's in there too. Like, just a fun lineup to watch. And they're all, aside from Votto, who's fun, but all fun young guys. It's great.
There's one thing that's not going to be fun. Tuesday and Wednesday, Burns and Peralta.
Oof.
Reds just can't hit the Brewers.
How's Burns been since the All-Star break? Not bad.
Has he faced anybody besides the Reds? He's shut down the Phillies too. That's right.
His last 2 starts have been utterly insanely good.
And the one right before the All-Star break was good too. It may not have been like jumped out as a line, but you could see the stuff in that start. Obviously I watch every Reds game pretty closely, and for like 4 innings, he was just like untouchable. Ellie got like a little bloop hit and then stole a base, and it kind of got in his head for like an inning, and then Votto hit the bomb, and then he went back to shutting everything down again. Yeah, Burns looks like Burns again.
14 innings, 4 hits, 3 walks, 23 strikeouts the last 2 starts. So yeah, it's all the concerns about him early on. Oh my gosh, I can't believe I took him over Garrett Cole. That sort of thing is it's all coming back. He's at 3.49, 1.06 right now. It's all pretty going to be pretty good by the end of the year for Corbin Burns. I don't think that pick is going to hurt anybody in any way, shape, or form.
Great.
Other guys on offense, obviously CES is the big name, but we had Sal Frelick get called up for the Brewers. Had a really good first game, his debut. He had 3 hits, had a sac fly. Was the game? I think the game winning run. It was close enough. I think they won 4-3. I think it was his RBI there. I think that you were in on Frelick a little bit. What do you see here? It's not great this year in AAA, but he's been much better in the minors before this year.
And he got hurt at the start of the year, so kind of like you take the numbers that he's had this year with kind of a little bit of a grain of salt. I think if you look more like at where he was coming into the year, what sort of prospect pedigree he has, realize this is Milwaukee's top prospect coming in. It's not Waiver, it's Frelick. Frelick is the guy that you want, and to that end, Waiver sat out the last 2 games.
Yeah, he seems to have been slumping and then now losing playing time too.
Yeah, and granted, one's a lefty, one's a righty, so that might be something there too. Frelick's on the good side of the platoon. I think he's the guy you want to get. I think he's.
Yeah, he hit fourth. He hit fourth today, by the way, too. I just look at the lineup here. He hit fourth.
Yeah. I don't know. He's not at the elite prospect level, but he's a darn good prospect. And sometimes darn good turns out to be Matt McLain, and then you're like, oh, he's an elite prospect.
Yeah. And we're going probably hoping for a really good batting average, and then maybe kind of tossing in everything else. But I think the batting average is what you really need there, and then maybe a few stolen bases. He had 18 steals in the minors last year, but he hit 365 in AAA last year, 317 in AA. I think the batting average and the kind of the bat skills, he does not strike out at all. He's always in the mid-teens strikeout wise in the minor leagues. And you're looking at the discipline and the bat skills are what we're looking for with Frelick here.
Yeah. Heart Foundation says he prefers Jackson Chourio overall. Yeah, of course. So who doesn't? Chourio's not coming up this year though. I don't think we'll see him this year. I think, he's like
18 or 19.
He's like the youngest guy at AA.
Yeah.
I could be wrong. He could come up, but
he's 14 home runs, 27 stolen bases in AA as a 19-year-old. That's freaking crazy.
Yeah, he is awesome. He's going to be great, but I'd hold off and expecting it this year.
Someone mentioned in the chat, Zach Geloff is a good middle infield pickup too. We talked about him a bunch last week. I agree there. I think that he's going to play every day for the A's. He's been showing, he hadn't done a lot, but he's shown a little pop to the opposite field. He had a home run to the right field on Saturday night. It was really nice. So I think that he's going to work and play every day too. Other guys, we talked about Endy Rodriguez a little bit last week, but he wasn't available in all leagues. He is catching most days for the Pirates right now, kind of one of their bigger prospects. This is more of a, if you need a catch or two, I needed a catch or two in a couple spots. I picked him up pretty cheaply. But I didn't think he's another guy that's really good batting averages in the minors, was not great this year. But another guy that I think you're going to get more than you bargained for from a catch or two.
Might be overwhelmed a little bit there. 1 walk, 9 Ks to start off with, but then again,
the first couple games were really rough with the strikeouts. I didn't notice that, but I think that he was not a big strikeout guy in the minors, so maybe he just faced a couple nasty pitches or whatever. Maybe he was. I think that should adjust pretty quick. I hope.
By the way, I was going to say maybe he becomes Patrick Bailey, and that's the upside.
Ooh, that'll
maybe
work.
That comparison is a little bit more apt than I gave it credit. 5 walks, 50 Ks for Bailey so far this year. Wow. He had his big moments early on, and he's still slugging 442, but. Wow, he's
funny you say that because he got dropped on one of my main events last week, and I just kind of put a note to look at how he's been before next week, and that's you might answer my question right there.
14 games this month. This was a note that we had on Saturday when he got benched. He was hitting 125, 176, 167 with 17 Ks and 1 walk. They got a guy, and they got Sable. I mean, Sable can be behind the plate, and he's actually having a decent year too. I always think that this is such a MacGyver team, the Giants, that. I just wonder for what when they kind of evaporate, and every time I write them off, they have a big winning streak again. And so even though they had this horrible, no good, awful weekend against the Nats, they could still sneak, come back to bite us again.
Did you do anything with Cade Marlowe in Seattle? I saw that it was a little bit of news when he got called up earlier this week, and then it seemed like nobody was bidding on him.
I did not.
Yeah.
So what happened is I saw you put his name on the outline. I did some digging on him, and he's like an old prospect. Sometimes that works out. Whit Merrifield says hello. That worked out pretty well for him, his career. There's others guys like that get their chance later in their career, but no, I'm not seeing it. I see the opportunity, and that's about it.
Yeah, there's some pop and some speed, and I was worried about the playing time actually because he's a lefty, which means those days Mike Ford's going to play. Maybe Taylor Trammell plays some of those days. It didn't seem like it really fit for him to play too much. But if you need steals, you need some pop. He's definitely run in the minors. But you're right, he's 26. As the week went along, I kind of lost interest in him, and I was not the only one. He got picked up in one main event league this week, so he was clearly off everybody's radar.
Yeah. I just he'll have thing is we'll all get a week to look at him basically and see. It was we saw the heroic fight by Kelnick against the water cooler, and he lost. Unfortunately,
these guys it's always one per year. It's just always one guy that does something like that, and it's got to be. It's so frustrating for them, but geez.
It's losing to the water cooler though. That's like losing like Piston Hurricane. Come on. I mean, it's like kind of lower on the level of inanimate objects. Like a wall, that's like Tyson. You always lose to the wall. fine.
Isn't it Piston Honda?
Piston Honda. What's the Hurricane one then?
Glass Joe. I don't know. There's a Hurricane one. I don't
there's
even know.
like, yeah, there's like, it's like, I was trying to go for like tier 3 is what I was going for, tier 2 or tier 3.
It is Piston Honda though, right?
I think you're probably right. Just let me roll with it here, man. Yeah, it's too late now. But
Now
I
was trying to figure it out. I was actually curious.
Now I have to look up Mike Tyson Punch-Out characters there. So,
no, you're right. There is a Piston Hurricane.
Oh yeah, yay!
Wow, that's a great call. In the NES and Wii games, Piston Hurricane is replaced by Piston Honda, who fights in a similar manner.
Yeah, there's Bald Bull. Okay,
Bald Bull.
Yeah.
Piston Hurricane. Piston Hurricane.
Hippo.
Piston Hurricane was from Cuba. Piston Honda was from Japan.
Don Flamenco could have gone that way.
Yeah. Mr. Sandman. There's a lot of them out there.
Yeah.
That's pretty awesome. That actually
Soda Popinski.
Awesome. Soda Popinski. Flamenco Joe.
Yeah. There's a lot of them.
Flamenco. There was Glass Joe. There was Flamenco someone too. I don't remember.
Yeah.
Anyway, now that we've completely Don Flamenco. That's it. Damn it.
Yep.
So yeah, I was. What about other guys on offense? Wilmer Flores was mashing against our Reds this week. It seemed like he homered every time he was up. Mark Canha has some playing time with Starling Marte out. Was there anybody else offensive wise? I had trouble after these big first names. You mentioned earlier the A's. I liked taking a stab on some of those guys going into cores over this weekend. Was there anybody else you liked offensive wise? Because I found it pretty slim pickings after the top group we talked about.
I did. A couple of those names like Flores, but I just think you just missed his best week. Canha, I did put some secondary bids on.
He just looked so bad.
Yeah, he did. Chas McCormick was actually available at online. The 12s are weird. We'll get to that in a second, by the way. 12s are weird.
Yeah, 12's another name. Edouard Julien is available in like 35% of 12.
Oh, I definitely would be interested. The fact that they're putting Polanco at third base, I mean, that to me was like, they're not going to send him down this time.
I wasn't even going to bring him up. I'm sure by this point everybody's picked him up, but he was still available in 30% of them. He's available. I'd run to grab him right now too.
Scott, I saw Tim Anderson available in a 12, and I didn't even bid.
Jeff,
he had
a good batting average week.
I'm verklempt. I mean, he's just still waiting for that homer.
He had multiple hits in 4 games this week.
Yeah, maybe I should have gone after him.
But like literally none of them even close to having any power. It's just he has 0 home runs. Like the guys get called up in like a weekend, hit their home run, little middle infielders and guys you don't expect home runs, and they still hit home runs. He has 0.
Yeah.
He only has 10 steals. He has 16 RBIs too, like in 75 games. That is impossible.
Yep.
He hits second every game too? How does he not have more RBIs than that?
It's so weird that the White Sox are having a bad year.
Right. Yeah. Jeez.
Blew one another one today, and just White Sox.
They're a mess. So before we jump into starting pitching and relievers and FAAB, I do want to talk about that because there's some interesting stuff here with the trade deadline coming up. A note from our sponsors at Home Run Index. We know the weather can impact how far a ball can fly, but we never know what all the heat and humidity or cold air is going to do to the ball. The Home Run Forecast Index gives us an easy way to determine how good or bad the air is for ball flight. The index is calculated by measuring stadium-specific weather conditions and is displayed on a scale from 1 to 10, 1 being the most unfavorable for good ball flight and 10 indicating the most favorable air. There's a strong correlation between the index and the number of runs scored per game and the number of home runs hit. Games that have the highest index, 10, for the whole game average over 10 runs and 2.8 homers over the course of the baseball season. An index is created for each game. You can see what will be in any stadium and how the weather's influence might change over the course of the game, as well as the wind direction. Obviously, great for gaming, DFS, etc. Right now, you can access the HRF premium site for only $5 a month and see what the index will look like for every hour of every baseball game. Go to Home Run Forecast now to sign up. HomeRunForecast.com, sorry. So, Jeff, pitching. You go first because we're going to talk about the fact that Tanner Bybee was available in one of your 12-teamers. You told me that about 12 minutes before the deadline. You dropped that on me. I couldn't believe that. Like, that's been good all year long. I don't know what someone felt or saw to drop him. Maybe they thought they were going to shut him down or something. I don't even know what's going on there. But did you win him? Because, wow, that's a great guy to have on the available.
I overbid on him. I bid 69. And it won 69 to 28. So I could have gone a little bit calmer and maybe spent more on Strand and Encarnacion-Strand instead. But in that league, I got Bybee. I mean, obviously, he was huge this weekend against the Phillies. Yeah, 12s are weird. I mean, I'm in the middle of the pack, and that's generous in that league. So whatever. I shouldn't be lecturing anybody, but Yeah, he's great, and I wanted him and got him. So, the funny thing is when I saw him
shocked
there,
you didn't go for 3 digits though. I'm shocked you got him for 69.
it's 12s, dude.
Still though, like
how many people probably didn't even notice that he was there? It's just, although it's funny, it was listed as 100% rostered. That was the funny thing.
It is because it's probably 99.6 where there's so many online championship leagues that it just rounds up to 100, which is wild. Because in the main, if there's one, it's a 98 percentile. There's one leaguers available, but 100% is beautiful.
Yep.
Talk about a nice guy. Is that team in the mix? Like what a nice ad.
It's never stop fighting till the fighting's done. We're still in July, but it's not a good team. It's so mid. It's kind of boring.
You just throw a top whatever number you want to throw at the pitcher, though. That's a nice ad in FAAB.
Yeah. Well, yeah. But then I'm like, I see Adolis Garcia day to day. I see JD Martinez day to day. I've got Judge on IL still. Andrew Vaughn's day to day. It's still not pretty.
Oh, it's still fun to add someone like that, though.
It is.
What else did you do in pitching? Did you go back in on the Brandon Pfaadt train? We've done this 3 or 4 times already. It feels like this year. Looked really good this weekend until the very end against the Reds. He pitched really well for 5 or 6, and then he gave 2 home runs, whatever it was. He gave 3 home runs in that one inning. It was 3 in a row. It was back to back to back, wasn't it?
Yeah, it was 3 in a row.
Looked really good through 4 or 5. Was striking guys out. Wasn't walking anybody. Then 3 home runs in a row. Pitched really well in AAA to start before that. Are you back on board this train at all? Did you bid on him? What'd you do with Pfaadt this week?
He was just a minimum bid. Wasn't top of my list because the home runs have been a problem all along. And guess what? Home runs were a problem here too. Now he'll go back home and it's a little bit better, but he faces some really good teams. I'm probably not going to be, I think I had him in my waterfall in some places there.
Yeah, we've been a while since we got that.
Yes. I wasn't that aggressive. There was really very few people I was aggressive of going for, except for, of course,
pitching's hard to find right now. We talked about it for a few weeks in a row. It's really hard to find. Pfaadt was added in 40 of the 53. I think it's 53 main event leagues. Minimum of 1, high of 62. So there's a couple people in on him a little bit aggressively. I was in I think I was in the low teens, high single digit ranges. I was willing to take a shot on it, but wasn't aggressive about it either. The guy that I kind of like right now, and I'm hoping that he sticks in the rotation, is Chase Silseth. I can't say the name. I
had some bits on him. Yep.
He gets at Detroit this week. Definitely a start this week. And then if he pitches again this week, he's gonna be at Atlanta. So full stay away from that one. But this is a guy who really can strike guys out. He pitched really well against the Yankees earlier this week. In the minors, he had a 27% strikeout rate. You look at 2022, he had a 35% strikeout rate in AA. This is a guy that can miss some bats. 23.5% so far this year. Has a few too many walks this year. Walks have been the problem, but man, he looked really good against the Yankees. 5 2/3, 4 hits, 2 walks, 10 strikeouts, 1 earned run. This is someone that I was kind of mildly interested in to start the year. I thought there was a chance maybe he's going to be kind of a back-end bullpen guy. Maybe they throw him that way, but I'm interested here. The problem with this, you always get the Angels, so you never get 2 start weeks. They go 6 starters. It's hard to get a lot of starts, but as your 8th or 9th starter, 8th or 9th pitcher on a 15-teamer, I think Silseth is going to be worthwhile the final stretch of the year.
Angels have 2 guys that were drafted in 2021, which is 2 years ago, in their starting rotation, and Reed Detmers and Chase Silseth. Yep. I think in both cases.
I didn't interrupt. Is that the year they drafted all pitchers?
Yeah,
and that's wild.
It is. It's super wild, and I think we got to remember that when we're trying to this is a Silseth again. We'll write this guy off. Oh, come on, he was drafted 2 years ago. 2 years ago, 2 years and a week ago, this guy was an amateur. Think about that. Yeah. And he's in the majors now, which we know the gradation jump is as big as ever. We got to be able to slow our roll and say, like I saw someone on Twitter, of course, which was my first mistake, saying it's clear Elliot De La Cruz can't hit lefties. Stop letting him hit against lefties. Oh, really? Cool. How many at-bats has he had? You've got this, generational prospect who, by the way, did hit lefties in the minors, who is 21, and you're going to already decide I've seen enough.
Yeah.
Come on.
That's there's a lot of, that's the internet and social media. There's a lot of stuff to jump the gun there. Paul Spore, I'm glad you're in on Silseth too. That makes me feel even a little better about it. But I really like that one. He was kind of after the closers that we'll talk a little bit. He was one of my top guys in there. How do you feel about Luis Medina in Oakland? Really good 2-start this week. I looked at him. You and I talked about him a little bit last week. Kind of the guys like, oh, they have 2 starts a week, but we want to throw him. Pitched well today against the Astros. 5 innings, 1 earned run, 6 strikeouts. Similar line against Boston earlier this week, 5 2/3. He's been the first A's pitcher. I guess JP Sears has moments, but Medina's actually looked like a major leaguer out there. His last couple starts, he had 9 strikeouts against the Boston in his 2 starts before that. He's been really good 3 starts in a row. I think this is a guy that if you can maybe stream him for some home starts, I think they're at Colorado this week, so I'm not throwing that one. But
they have 5 games. So yeah.
Next week be home against the Giants. I would throw that one. I think that Medina could be someone that is going to be usable in 15 teamers.
Dare I say he could be funky
and a little bit cold.
Yes, he could. The problem though with any A's starter that you get is that you have
3 categories for sure, because you're not getting any wins.
You're not getting any wins. You're not getting any defensive support. Sneakily bad defensive team, and just awful bullpen.
Why sneakily? They're bad at everything.
Yeah, because there's so much focus on everything else, right? That's all I'm saying.
Yeah. JP Sears has a 4.2 ERA and a 1.05 WHIP. Has made 20 starts and has 1 win.
Yeah, so
that's impossible.
It's kind of like, what's the point? That's where I'm at. That's what I'm getting at. And then you get a Colorado start now, so it's fine. I forgot to mention, I did pick up one other pitcher. What if I told you I got a guy that struck out the 10 Braves this past week?
I'm trying to remember who that was.
Adrian Hauser struck out 10 Braves on Saturday.
Oh, he's not really. Yeah, that's not. I would not have. That would take him a while to get there on that one.
Yeah, and he also gets the Braves in Atlanta this week, and I don't like that. I'm probably not going to use him. But for $2 and a spot in that rotation, Wade Miley's hurt again. Why not? Good. This is the opposite issue. Good team. Wow. Good bullpen. Yeah, I'm interested in that.
Last 4 starts for Hauser: 2 earned runs, 1 earned run, 3 earned run, 3 earned run. Pretty good stretch of starts you're jumping into there.
Yeah, I think he's like the definition of league average, and league average is just fine when you're looking at in deep leagues and you're looking at the waiver wire. Okay, I'll take that. I mean, you have to hold your nose sometimes. You're like, it's Adrian Hauser. This has been litigated. I've done it before, but sometimes you can find some value in guys like that.
Someone in the chat asked when we thought the Mets are going to make Ronnie Mauricio. I'm actually surprised he hasn't come up yet, but I would assume he comes up worst case next week after they trade everybody, if they do trade everybody, right?
So that's whole nother issue, but they just lost another series in Boston. It was desultory and all that. I think if you're the Mets, though, you're trying to think. You're thinking about competing next year. You're not thinking about starting over. So I think it's a little different than some of these other teams. I think don't you give one of your
young studs 2 months of at bats then if you're trying to compete next year?
You do. So you maybe trade Tommy Pham again, and he's always been traded. It's kind of like, rent, please, don't buy if you're Tommy Pham. But
you're be careful. Tommy Pham will come kick your butt.
No, I'm trying to be empathetic actually for him.
He's actually been pretty good.
He has been very good. He got a little bit. He's playing hurt right now.
Yeah, he's got the groin. I think he would actually welcome a trade to a contender. I think he would. I think he would kind of thrive in that environment.
I saw someone again, Twitter, propose CES for Carlos Carrasco, and I just had a good little chuckle over that.
After you blocked and muted the person.
Yeah, just reported. Oh wait, in this area doesn't. Yeah. I'll send them to X. Oh wait, he already is there.
But at some point, you can't give Daniel Vogelbach at bats if you're not competing this year.
Oh, agreed. I agree.
He's hitting 224 with 6 bombs. It's hard to watch. He's getting booed on there in the bats. It's just the poor guy. If they trade people and they tank, I think they have to bring up Mauricio and give him 2 months of at bats to see what you have. I just think
they need to give Vientos at bats too.
Yeah,
and real at bats, not this. Oh, we're gonna play you against lefties sometimes at the bottom of the order.
That was so absurd when he came up. He played like 2 of 5 games. It was horrible. I think what you say, you trade Pham, you DFA Vogelbach, you play Vientos and Mauricio for 2 months. I think you figure out what you have for next year.
But they could also be bold and go and add 2 at the same time. They could trade for Ohtani in a weird sort of way and just start saying, hey, next year we're back in as a competitor. This is one of those weird years in hell for them. It's just like the talent. You look at the players on the roster, it should be better, right?
There's no way that Ohtani gets traded and signs with somebody before free agency, right? There's no way that, I don't know who his agent is, but there's no way they're letting him not get to free agency, correct?
Oh, he's getting the free agency for sure. But
it's not like he's going to be like, we're trading the Yankees sign him for 10 years and
no,
700 million.
Fair point. But at the same time, introducing the team culture, all that, like trying to.
I think that matters. Like if someone falls in love with the city and the fans and gets in a pennant race, like a lot of these teams that don't think they have a good chance to sign up time, they trade for him. You never know what you could do in 2 months if you win the World Series, if you make a deep run. It's a lot of different factors in there.
Yeah, and teams that also just teams that drink their own Kool-Aid, think, hey, you got to see our clubhouse culture, like the Dodgers. Yep. I could see them doing that.
You mentioned I mentioned the Mets. Any Jose Quintana love on the FAAB waiver wire for you this week?
I saw him go for a big amount in one of my NL only home league, and
I guess NL only, yeah.
I was flummoxed by that because he's Jose Quintana. He had a nice little stretch last year, but
he was good last year.
Yeah, I don't.
He also had a 6.5 ERA the year before too. Yeah. I was not really in on if you wanted to stream him and kind of find some starts. I could see it. Any of the kind of fringy 2-start pitchers you went on this week? Last week we talked about Medina. That one worked. We think we talked about Jordan Lyles. That one didn't work as well. He pitched well the first start, but Michael Grove in LA, who's been added and dropped more than any player in the NFBC main event so far this year. It's an insane. That's actually a true statement. It's a wild stat. Brandon Bielak in Houston, but he's facing Texas and Tampa Bay this week. Ryan Yarbrough, Patrick Corbin, anybody that you were like, yeah, I'm in for the 2 starts. For anybody with me is maybe Michael Grove. There's been a few flashes, but most of these guys I was pretty far out on.
Shu and I always collaborate on the FAAB, and he added Bielak to our list of pitchers, and I kept on moving him lower in the list. And I understand 2 starts are nice, and I see why he did it.
Yeah, and it's 2 starts for the Astros, but yeah, Texas no Seager. I get it, and Tampa Bay's struggling, but that still is
I think I disparaged a random Royal last week, and for the first of the 2 starts, maybe it was Yarbrough, maybe it was or I think it was either
Yarbrough or Lyles. I forget.
Lyles, or maybe both. And I just said, no way, no how, I couldn't do it. And Lyles actually got a win.
Yeah, he pitched really well on Monday, and then the Yankees hit him pretty well today.
Or no, he didn't get a win this week. He pitched well though against the Guardians.
Well. Yeah, he pitched really well. What about relievers? We kind of mentioned a little bit earlier on Kevin Ginkel. He got 2 saves this week for the Diamondbacks. We mentioned our friend Scott McGuff has been struggling. Ginkel's actually been pretty good this year. 2.39 ERA, a WHIP under 1. I was surprised how good he's been all year. When I went to look, I'm like, am I gonna look to pick this guy up if his ratios are ugly? But they've been good. And then the strikeout rate's not great for a closer, but 23%. The walk rate's down. Walk has been his problem. This is a guy that was going to be like their closer of the future a couple years ago. We thought it was like, and when Kevin Ginkel comes up, he's the guy. Couldn't stop walking guys. I was in on Ginkel this week. I think the Arizona may trade for a closer, so I was not too far in, but I was in for maybe we get a week. Maybe they trade for a setup guy instead. But I was in a little bit on Ginkel this week.
I think Troy Lovello is like the true bullpen by committee king. I mean, I think
because Gabe Kapler's not anymore, by the way.
No, he's long gone. So and by the way, so is David Bell too.
Yeah, it's been Diaz every time too.
Yeah, so I mean, I think now you're looking at like Cash and Service, but even like those two kind of have set their bullpen rotations a little bit more solidly now. Ollie Marmol is coming up on the outside as a guy that you can't trust, but
a little Rocco Baldelli, although he's been kind of mostly Duran too.
Yeah. But Lovello, I mean, he's notorious for not declaring who it's going to be. I mean, he had the 1 year where he used, who is it?
Mark Melanson?
Yes, thank you.
Archie Bradley?
Archie Bradley, though, he never committed to.
Was that before Lovello, or was that Lovello too? Like Bradley, they just every year we thought it was going to be Bradley, and it just never was.
Yeah. Well, now Bradley doesn't have a team, so
yeah.
Hey.
So yeah, I was in on that. I'm looking for saves. I was in for single digits, but I did get him in one of my main events.
I was in for single digits and didn't get him.
What do you feel about Miami? AJ Puck blew another save today. It's been a struggle recently for him. He was pitching really well and just kind of hit a wall right now. The stuff looked good today. I watched that game, and Randall Grichuk, the bat he hit a home run was just an exceptional at bat. It was 3-2. He laid off a nasty pitch on 2-2. I have no idea how he laid off. And then Puck hung a slider and hit it 9 miles. But Tanner Scott's been good there. And Tanner Scott actually pitched the 9th and Puck pitched the 8th on Saturday. Do you think we see it changing the guard here? They've said they're sticking with Puck. That was before today, though. Another team that might trade for a guy. But were you on anybody in Miami here?
I think Tanner Scott is their best reliever right now. And no, I'm not in on him. Maybe I should be, but again, I don't really trust Skip all that much either. I mean, the fact is, he is asking for votes of confidence. Scott, they use him a lot too. I feel like they do, but
I think he gets the next save opportunity.
Yeah, I think he might. 38%
strikeout rate.
Scott gave up a run and got the loss the other day, though, too.
He did. It's funny because Puck pitched the 8th in that game, pitched well, and then Scott gave up the run and lost. And then today, Scott pitched the 8th, pitched really well, and then Puck gave up the run in the 9th. They can't quite get there. Again, they're kind of in the mix. They may trade for somebody, but I think Scott gets in that save op, and I think that's worth bidding on at least a small amount.
They did finally won an extras. They had an 8-game losing streak before today. So
it was rough. They may I say they may trade for somebody. They may not be in the mix either. What are they? Oh, they're only a half game out of the third spot.
Yeah, they're still in the mix. They're solidly in the mix, but they shut down their best starting pitcher. So, what do I know?
Has that not worked out very well?
Have you cut Yuri Perez yet?
I do not have Yuri Perez, but I would cut him.
Okay, I do.
Every quote I read is like, "Oh, maybe he'll help us out later," and just like, I don't know. Is he going to come out of the bullpen and help you out? I mean, he's not going to be stretched out. He's not even pitching, right?
I don't know.
I don't think he's actually pitching in the minors right now.
I think you're correct. A minor league game log, nothing. Yeah. So what in fresh hell? I mean,
I have no way. I don't get it. I just don't get it. I understand that they had to figure out a way to figure out the innings. We talked about that when we picked him up. It's just like he threw 77 innings.
He's a cut now. Yeah. If he's not even pitching completely.
I think he's a cut. I think he's a full cut. I mean,
what are they like messing around? Maybe he's pitching in their spring training complex on the side, but
that'd be my guess. And if you're asking just my feel on it, I think that if they're in the mix, he comes out and pitches like 3-inning spurts in September.
So annoying.
I think it's stupid. I think it's annoying, and I don't think it makes sense, especially when you're in the mix. But
if Derek Jeter were alive still, he wouldn't let that happen.
Cheech is the man.
But not
it's
for
just
the
so
Marlins.
Weird.
Yeah.
Not for the Marlins. But do you see any way where he just comes back? He's throwing 7 innings. I don't see how that's possible.
How long is it going to take him to ramp back up? And no, he barely ever threw 7 innings.
Okay, but I mean a full start. I just don't see it. It seems really weird that you're going to set him down for a month and a half, and then something's going to go into major league action throwing 98, and I don't get it.
Yeah, and yeah,
I think they messed
as
it up
Paul
so
was
bad.
saying in the chat too, it's not proven to work. I mean, Steven Strasburg's on line 3 yelling right now about this. It's just stop. I'm
not throwing him for 125 pitches a game or anything, but
no.
you could manage it. You could skip starts here and there, but to just fully shut him down, I
mean, unless
I hated it.
Unless they don't trust Skip Schumacher to not be Augie Garrido. I mean, just let him and throw a billion pitches. I think you're fine.
An Augie Garrido reference. I didn't have that coming up. That's impressive.
Yeah, thank you. I was just trying to think of arm shredding in college.
You could have gone Dusty Baker, but you went all the way to Augie Garrido. I liked it.
Yeah, well, it's the youth angle there.
Speaking of relievers, it seems like we're at a point. The trade deadline's next Tuesday. I felt like this is a week if you wanted to try and slide through a setup guy who you think the closers are going to get traded, this was the week to do it. I like Carlos Hernandez in Kansas City. I think they trade Barlow. Jason Foley in Detroit's kind of interesting. If they trade Lang, although they might trade Foley also. Gregory Santos in Chicago's pitched really well. If they trade Graveman and Hendricks does not come back, is kind of an interesting piece there too. Were you doing anything? Were you doing anything with any kind of these guys? Someone in the chat mentioned Joel Payamp. I was talking about him last week, but Milwaukee's not trading Devin Williams, so he's a really good pitcher, but I think he's going to be a setup guy. I always looked at Foley, Hernandez, and Santos. Were any other guys you looked at? I think this is the week to do it. I
think it is too. How about Giovanni Gallegos?
That's an interesting one because they're going to trade Hicks. They might trade Gallegos too, but I actually held Gallegos in the main just for that reason. I have him, and I would have cut him, but I'm holding on because I think he might. He could end up being the closer. We haven't heard anything about Helsley coming back. If they trade Hicks, I think the Gallegos kind of just ends up the guy.
This is a good one. Timothy Tunks, Robert Suarez, getting the 8th now for the pod people. If Hader is on the market, and that's looking more plausible. Yeah, I think that the Padres, they're a weird case. Okay, they're 6 games
what are they?
out of the wild card.
Third wild card. Okay,
they're plus 52 in run differential. They're 5-5. They had the weekend from hell against the Phillies. Jiminy Christmas.
Really? You got to bring up the Eagles. Losing in the NFC Championship game wasn't bad enough. Now you got to drop in the middle of July on me. Jeez.
But they had those gut punch losses in Philly where they won the first game of the series, got swept in a doubleheader in just like ugly fashion. Then even Sunday was even weirder. I mean, it was just like, stick it to them. Lost today to the Tigers. They needed to kind of sweep that, I feel like, but because the division's now pretty much out of reach, I feel like, for them. But
do you? I want to ask you this: do you think they finish ahead of the Diamondbacks and the Giants by the end of the year? I would take the Padres to beat both of them by the end of the year.
Both is a tough sell.
Yep, I think the Padres over both of them. Right,
they kind of need to do that though to make the playoffs.
They're going to have to jump both of them to make the playoffs. Yes.
Yeah. So maybe.
Because they're going to have to play really well, and they're going to have to have other teams not play very well too. It's going to have to be a combo. They're behind so many teams. I didn't know Hader's a free agent. That's a good, really good call right there. This is last year's sign with the Padres.
Yeah, and here, and going back to your point about Giants and the Diamondbacks, here's the Diamondbacks rotation right now: Zach Allen. Yep. Okay, there's others: Tommy Henry, Ryan Nelson, Brandon Pfaadt, and then they did a bullpen start today against the Reds.
They need Merrill Kelly back badly.
They need Merrill Kelly and friends. They need more than that. Second rehab start was supposed to be Thursday, but it was at their Arizona Rookie League level, the Complex League. I mean, come on. I don't think, and I gotta see what's he? Yeah,
I think he's pitching this week. I think he's pitching this week against the Cardinals.
Man, I hope that's good enough. But I mean, I think they're in a really tough spot right now. Maybe they'll trade for one of those Cardinals pitchers and they'll just switch dugouts and then switch team. Start the next day. They can do something like that because they need help immediately.
They do. It's just so tough. You're just looking at the Dodgers. Like, can we beat these guys even if we make a trade? And you just hate to give something up they're in the mix of the wild card. They're young. I don't know how aggressive I'd be if that were them. I might, but they need pitching if they're gonna hang in this at all.
I mean, the thing is, look at the Dodgers, though. I mean, the Dodgers are playing well right now. They're 1-10. They lost today. Emmett Sheehan got knocked around. Look at that starting rotation, though. It is a mess.
They're adding someone for sure.
Yeah, and they're adding somebody.
Yeah, there's no doubt.
The Braves are probably going to add somebody. They did add to they nominally. I mean, they have Yanni Chirinos now somehow. They used who do they use today? The guy making his debut, Winans.
Yes.
And then they sent him down.
Yeah, they did send him down. I thought Winans was on the Braves.
I did say Braves.
Oh, you did say Braves. Okay, I thought I misheard you. I'm sorry. Yeah, it was Winans. Alan Winans.
Alan Winans, and then he got sent back down, I think. He
was 27, by the way. Huh.
Yeah. But they're going to get freed back at some point in time, too.
Yeah. Pretty soon here. I mean, I don't think it's very long.
Yeah, but they keep on losing people. Like Colby Allard was a pickup for a while. Now he's on the 60-day. Yeah. So that's where they're at right now. And the fact is, Yanni Chirinos is their number 4 starter currently. They need other help.
Yeah, I think Fried probably going to be one more rehab start and probably pitch next week. I mean, they have a really good playoff rotation. You go Strider, Fried, and Morton, but you're right. Their depth right now is really, really skicky.
I don't trust Bryce Elder for a playoff start either.
Yeah, I don't really either. He's really good early, and then it's there's been some blips there too.
A lot of 7s.
Anything with the Mets bullpen? If they trade, I mean, if they start trading, they got to trade Robertson and Ottavino, right?
Yeah, for sure.
Like if you're gonna do it, those are the ones you got to trade the relievers.
The funny thing though is their bullpen has been disastrous this year. Those are the only 2 good relievers, basically. After losing Diaz, everybody moved up a step in the chain, and they've had some bad luck. I take that back. Brooks Raley's actually been pretty good, but he's 35. They should trade him too.
I was going to say I look at Drew Smith, but he's 29 and his ERA is 4.5, so he doesn't work either. You're right.
It's 1.44. I mean, that's even worse. That's
the only way it works is if maybe they trade just Robertson and Ottavino, but he got traded. Ottavino's. They're both 38. You got to trade those guys for whatever you can get for them right now. If you're not contending this year, you're tanking. You got to do that.
Agreed.
It's gonna be wild. The crazy thing is the deadline's on Tuesday, which means all these guys are gonna have in lineups are gonna get traded and clothes are gonna get moved out. We're gonna have guys locked in lineup. It's gonna be a tough week for trying to set lineups because trying to figure out you can't sit somebody like, oh, they might trade this person, and that doesn't happen. You're sitting there, with their closer on the bench. But it's gonna be. I hope it's fun. I like when trade deadlines are pretty active.
Agreed.
We've kind of hit everything. I had some players to talk about. We've kind of gone long here. One guy I want to talk about before we jump out of here, Daulton Varsho in Toronto. is a weird guy to figure out fantasy-wise because his catcher eligible this year, not anymore after this, and that's going to affect his value. But 12 home runs, 12 stolen bases, but he's hitting 214 right now. The hard hit rate is just okay. Barrel rate's gone down 3%. He's hit 159 the last month. How far is he going to fall next year without catcher eligibility? Is this going to be like just another outfielder, right?
Yeah, he's nothing. I mean, complete destroying of his keeper value. Weird year in Toronto, by the way. Alejandro Kirk has just evaporated as well.
He's just done nothing. Like every time I look, I'm like, oh, Kirk did nothing. It's just, I know he actually did something the other. He had a home run 2 days ago or whatever it was, but I mean, he's just done nothing all year long.
Yeah. It's really, really, really frustrating. And it would be if I had him, but I think the only place I have him is league I don't care about. It's the Gladiator team where I have like one active pitcher that's not dead yet.
Yeah, that's the problem with those leagues. Like no bench, no FAAB. Like it's just who stays healthy. But last thing,
Spore's a little higher on him, by the way. He jumped in and said about Varsho.
All right.
Buying very hard on him. 2020 can easily fix the average. Easy buy low. Okay, let's define that then a little bit. So when we say buy low for a guy that we think that could be 2020, I mean, yeah, of course it will take that plays at any position, but
he was like a 4th rounder this year, and probably next year is just outfield only. He's like a 12th rounder.
I was going to say 10th, so in a 15 teamer. So I guess we're kind of 150 to 200. I could see it.
I could see it too. I mean, but he's never hit over 250. I know the BABIP's not good this year, but it's never been great. But you're right. If he goes 2020, I mean, there's a lot of value in there. There's a lot of guys we want at 2020 that we can help out.
Obviously, he's got to keep running. I think that's one thing we got to stipulate too. And if we see like any degradation in sprint speed, if we see any of that, then I think we should be a little bit more concerned. You would think though, moving a guy out from behind the plate would help, but it hasn't.
Yeah, he's a good outfielder too. He's good defensively, and he's in a really good lineup. But who's really awesome though is Felix Bautista. 0.43 ERA last 18 appearances. ERA is under 1 for the year. Have you looked at his K rate at all lately?
It's like 1,000%.
It's over 50% now.
Yeah, that's awesome.
And that was, by the way, before today, and he had 3 strikeouts today. So definitely did not go down today. This dude's been unbelievable. Whip is 0.83, ERA is 0.94. This is just an insane season.
Yeah, it is. It really is. They traded. Remember how they traded Jorge Lopez to create room for him? Well, not to create room for him, but we're like, this is a team that's kind of competitive. How are you trade away Jorge Lopez? They got Cano back in the deal, so they basically replaced him with his, a younger, cheaper replacement that's just as good. And then Bautista stepped in and just turned on another level.
Every time I know he's been good, and obviously I know Baltimore's really good. Every time I look, I just can't believe he has a 50.5% strikeout rate. That's crazy.
I can't believe they're just in first place now after such an amazing start by the Rays.
The Rays were like 29-6 or something in there, right? Like it was an insane first month and a half.
Yeah.
And just like that, the AL East is going to be a lot of fun down the stretch here. It's going to be really a good time. Mm-hmm. I think that's kind of it. I'm looking at some of the injury news here. I think we kind of hit all of it. We mentioned Corey Seager. We talked about Evaldi. Gabriel Moreno went to the IL. That's going to affect. I actually had him in one league and just dropped him and just left elbow inflammation. It's not been a good year for Moreno, his first year in Arizona. We talked about JD Martinez. Trevor Story started his rehab on Friday. Do you expect him to be fantasy viable for us here at some point this year?
We're discussing that with Shu in his home league, his keeper league. What sort of if he bounces back and performs well over the last 6 weeks of the season, for instance, is he like a 5th rounder next year in a 12er? I mean, that's where he kind of was before. I think it's a free chance at upside, and you should absolutely be taking a look at him if you can.
Yeah, I mean, he was 16 home runs, 13 stolen bases in like little more than half a season last year. He only hit 240, but yeah, I think that feels about right.
Yeah.
He signed. He's signed long term with the Red Sox. Yeah, he signed out.
Yeah. By the way, point in the draft room that we got a day game tomorrow, so just a heads up on that.
How early?
Early enough. 1:10 Eastern, 10 a.m. Best Coast. So
Giants at the Tigers.
I think this is like a makeup of a rain out.
Stripling and Skubal. Yeah, it has to be because they didn't play this weekend. So yeah, Stripling and Skubal.
Well, yeah.
Giants must love that. You get swept by Washington. You got to stop in Detroit on your way home. Oof.
Yeah, and you have to start Stripling too. That's the other thing.
He'll be all right. Although
$592.
I thought he was good his last couple of starts.
Quality start against the Reds. Yeah, I guess. Six innings.
Yeah, the other ones are
runs
really
allowed.
short innings otherwise.
He hasn't allowed a walk in his last 3 outings, though, and 4 out of his last 5. So there's something, but he doesn't ever go deep, too, though. I mean, that he went 6 last time was actually a miracle.
They get a two game bye after that after the Tiger series because they're home against the A's after that, though.
Not like the 2-game actual bye that some teams have had this year.
It's true. It's just it's a two game essential bye. But last guy, Brandon Woodruff, 3-inning rehab outing on Saturday. If you've held him, he's finally kind of making his way back. Could be an interesting guy for the last 6 weeks of the season too.
Yeah. I do need him in one of my mains, and so I can make that heroic climb to 7th place.
Last question in the chat. Someone asked Matt Manning or Scooball. I would go Scooball for sure. I do not believe in Matt Manning myself. Anyway, thanks everybody for listening. Jeff, anything else on your mind? Anything else you want to discuss?
Nope. Just excited for another week of ball. Go Reds.
Absolutely.
Lose 5 in a row, win 5 in a row. Okay.
Hey,
all right.
When everybody your team is like 23, that's going to happen.
Yeah, it's true. Another big week where they're probably going to get hammered by the. This is actually a really bad week for the Reds at Milwaukee, at the Dodgers. So we'll see. I mean, bad schedule that is. We'll see if we can go 500 on that.
At Milwaukee is going to be fun, but like you mentioned, they get Burns and Peralta. That's going to be better win Monday.
Yeah, Dodgers they do get Miller, Sheehan, Grove, so that's at least plausible.
That's workable, yeah.
And then 4 games at the Cubs after that in the midst of the trade deadline. Who knows who they'll be facing then?
That's true. That's very true. So I want to thank everybody for listening. Thanks everybody in the chat. It was really active tonight, so we appreciate that. Obviously, we read it all. We can't get to everything, but we do appreciate all the commentary and chat there. Very nice to see and very nice to read. If you want to follow Jeff on Twitter, he's at Jeff_Erickson. I am at Scott Jenstad. Other than that, I'll be back at you next Sunday. Hope everybody has a really good week, a good fantasy week. Hope you start and move up the standings. It's about that time to do so. So everybody have a good week. Take care.